All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Sarah Lindahl. I am the Assistant Director of Student Life at the Larimer campus, and we are lucky enough to have Levi here with us. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him to talk about financial aid.
As Sarah introduced me, I'm Levi. I'm financial aid advisor at the Larimer County campus. We do all sorts of things in financial aid, but one of the things that we wanted to really focus on with this particular presentation is really providing a kind of 101 perspective on what financial aid looks like as far as student loans go. Student loans are one of those kind of weird topics that people know that they exist and that you have some kind of information or knowledge about what like student loans are, but you might not 100% know how they work over time. And that's kind of where we're like hoping this presentation will take you, is just a kind of understanding of what student loans look like over time. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to ask me. You don't have to even raise your hand, just kind of unmute yourself and say, hey. But if you don't have any questions, just kind of nod silently. I'll continue to make bad jokes and we'll move forward with life. So as far as student loans go, so these are the kind of questions that we wanted to consider when we were making this presentation. First, we wanted to kind of start with some information from you. I do have a poll going, but since there's exactly one person here, the poll would be kind of pointless. So the first question I would like you to answer, if you don't mind responding, is number one, which of the following websites can you go to safely submit your FAFSA? FAFSA.gov, FAFSA.com, FAFSA.edu, or FAFSA.tv?
What is FAFSA.gov?
Ooh, RIP, Alex. Yeah, so FAFSA.gov. FAFSA.gov will take you to the free application for federal student aid website. FAFSA.com is no longer in use, but it was a website that used to trick students into going there, and they would charge you like $15 to submit your FAFSA. Any website that charges you to submit your FAFSA is not legitimate. There's a reason it's called FAFSA. It's a free application for federal student aid, so if it costs, it's probably not anywhere you want to be, so exit out, make sure you go to FAFSA.gov. Number two, how long does it take for the financial aid department to receive your FAFSA?
That shouldn't be instant, isn't it?
As much as I would love for it to be instant, it's actually 5 to 7 business days. The process does take a little bit of time to go through the Federal Department of Education's websites and internal processes, and then they have to send it to us through their kind of back-end programming, and we have to enter it our side. So it does take a little bit of time for us to get it. As much as I would love to say it's instant, especially in this digital age, it's unfortunately not. Luckily, we don't do the paper versions anymore. Those used to take a lot longer. Number three, what day does the next year's FAFSA open up for applications? Is it April 1st, October 1st, January 1st, or June 1st?
I don't know that one.
That's all right. Most people don't. It's actually October 1st, and the reason being is that they want to get you have you have your taxes submitted and everything's ready to go, and then right after the school year started and you're kind of settled into the school year, they want you to think about submitting your FAFSA. So October 1st is when you can submit your FAFSA for the next year. So as of this October 1st, you're able to submit your 2021-2022 FAFSA. I know that's a lot of 20s, but January 1st is just kind of middle of the year, no significance to that date. April 1st, on the other hand, is the end of the year deadline. So that's the priority deadline for FAFSA. They want you to have your FAFSA in for priority consideration before that date. You can still submit your FAFSA after April 1st, but you're less likely to get a better package. So we generally advise you to submit it as close to October 1st as you can. Number four, what documents should you gather before submitting the FAFSA? So federal taxes from 2 years prior, your parents' federal taxes from 2 years prior, business investment records, social security card, driver's license, or all of the above.
Wouldn't it be?
Yep, all of the above. It just kind of depends on if you're under 24 or not. If you're under 24, you'll need slightly different documentation than if you're not under 24. So that's about it, though. And then we're almost to the end of these kind of questions, and then I'll actually talk about some important stuff. 5, do you need to submit a FAFSA every year?
Yes.
Yep, it's just like taxes. Submit it every year that you're intending on going to school. If you don't submit it, you don't get financial aid. So might as well submit it every year. Should you file for your FAFSA even if you don't think you qualify for financial aid?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of people say that they don't think that they qualify for financial aid based on a variety of reasons. But generally, the best case advice that you can is just submit it. Worst case scenario, you wasted 30 minutes of your life and you don't get awarded anything. Best case scenario, you find out that you get thousands and thousands of dollars of free money that you don't have to pay back towards your education. So I don't know when you're getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars for 30 minutes worth of work. I don't, but yeah, it's worth the time. Number 7, once you've submitted your FAFSA, there's nothing else you need to do. True or false?
True.
See, this one's hard, but false, unfortunately. So once you've submitted your FAFSA, like we said earlier, there'll be about 5 to 7 business days for us to receive it. But there might be other small bits and pieces of paperwork that you need to submit that are called verification. If you don't get those bits and pieces of paperwork completed, you won't be able to receive your financial aid. So you just want to make sure that you get those completed and turned into us on time before the semester starts, ideally. That way you don't have any lag in your financial aid. But there usually is something that you might need to do after submitting the FAFSA. So it's usually best case to speak with the financial aid department just to make sure you're set. Number 8, final question. At FRCC, what kind of financial aid can you receive through the FAFSA? Is it loans, grants, work study, or scholarships?
Loans, scholarships, and work study.
Cool. Partially correct. This one's kind of a trick question. I wanted to leave it kind of open-ended instead of having like D, E, F, G. So you can receive loans through the FAFSA. That's part of financial aid. Grants are also part of financial aid. Grants are money that you don't have to pay back. And you can also receive work study as long as you click the question that says, yes, I'd be interested in work study through the FAFSA. The FAFSA actually doesn't award scholarships. So scholarships are an entirely separate process. And we have an entire set of people that their whole position is dedicated to coordinating scholarships with students. And so we usually suggest that you speak with them separately. That's something that not a lot of students know. And a lot of students miss out on that scholarship funding because they're not aware that the FAFSA doesn't apply for scholarships for you. So it is a separate set of applications, but we can help with all those in the financial aid department either way. Good job, though. So paying for school, the basics. Number 1 is financial aid. This is kind of the whole point of the conversation that we're having today. You can complete the free application for federal student aid, aka the FAFSA, at studentaid.gov. Make sure that you complete all of your requirements and verification. And then make sure that you accept all available financial aid on your eWolf account. So you can go on to eWolf and you can accept whatever you're awarded. And that's kind of how you can pay towards your school. The second way is to pay your own way. So you would view your tuition bill by logging onto your eWolf account, checking that Pay My Bill page that's on your student portal, and then choosing a payment option and then proceeding. This one's popular with students that have independent funding, if their parents are going to pay or if they have the money independently themselves. You can pay with credit card and a bunch of other stuff, but that's cashier stuff. So, and then third-party assistance. So this is stuff like scholarships. Scholarships are considered third-party payments. It's a separate person other than you paying for your education. There are also third-party student loans. That's a separate process from the FAFSA. You apply through them through independent companies. We usually kind of steer you away from them if you can avoid them. If you need them, obviously you need them. But if you don't need them, we usually advise you and let you know that they might not have as preferable terms as federal student loans. Finally, third-party payments, 529 plans, stuff like that. So as far as option number 1 goes, we said earlier, make sure that you submit your FAFSA on October 1st or as close to that date as that you can. You can file it all the way through April 1st for priority consideration, and then you can file it all the way through the end of the year, pretty much to receive financial aid for that year. Check back, make sure that you don't have any other additional paperwork that you need to complete. And then finally, discuss your financial aid award with us once you have all your paperwork done. Any questions so far? Awesome. So we talked about the different kinds of financial aid that are available to you. There's grants, money that you don't have to pay back. Those are need-based, so based on your EFC, which is the expected family contribution number. That's determined by the big, long calculation that is the FAFSA itself. The lower the number your EFC, the more likely you are to receive grants. Grants are prorated based on the amount of credits that you enroll in. So the more credits that you enroll in, up to 12, 12 credits is considered full-time, and then fewer than that gets prorated based on the number that you're in. Loans, as long as you're in at least 6 credits, you can receive student loans from the federal government. There are 2 different types of loans. There's subsidized and unsubsidized. The main difference between the two is that subsidized does not accrue interest while you're in school, which kind of makes them the better choice of the two. And then unsubsidized are there if you need them, but they're considered good as opposed to the better version. But they do accrue interest while you're in school. So that's something to consider when you accept them, is knowing that they are going to be charged interest while you're physically actually attending school. And then finally, there's work study. Work study are positions that are on campus. In this world, some of them are online now. It's harder to access them right now, especially with campuses being closed. But work study is an option during normal times. They have on-campus jobs that help you pay rent, bills, food, books, stuff like that. So they're really cool work opportunities that help you get experience and then also help you pay your bills. So one of the big things that we wanted to kind of talk about with this particular presentation is talking about loans in context. So if you're thinking about taking out student loans, so if you know that like grants aren't going to be 100% of all the funding that you need, so maybe you have some grants, but you're like, I need rent, I need food. It's weird, I'm a student and I need to eat, but so you might need those student loans. We just want you to know that to really think about them in context of your life. So the average cost of 12 credits at FRCC for a resident student is right around $3,000. That comes out to about $263 per credit hour. If you're a FRCC resident with COF, that means that an average total cost of 12 credits on campus is going to be about $2,000, just slightly less, and then it's $153 per credit hour. And then if you're not a resident, it's significantly more expensive. It's about $4,815, which means it's about $401 per credit hour. So that can be more expensive. A lot of our non-resident students find that grants don't cover their total tuition costs, so that they need to have to take out some student loans. And that's kind of like a primary consideration for them, is that when they don't have their bill covered, that they need to kind of find a space to fill that grant or that funding gap, and loans come in there. So the loans that can be offered at Front Range through FAFSA. Excuse me. I actually have COVID, so subsidized loans are 2.75% interest rate, as are unsubsidized loans. As mentioned before, subsidized loans do not accrue interest while you're in school, whereas unsubsidized do. You can take up to a maximum of $4,500 of subsidized loan per year, whereas you can take up to a maximum of $6,000 per year of unsubsidized at Front Range. These numbers are a little bit different at every school. Universities have higher caps, but this is for Front Range in particular. So for loans at FRCC, so here we wanted to give you some examples of what students would look like with these loans. Student 1 accepts only the subsidized loans. So that means that they're trying to avoid any unsubsidized loans, avoid any of that in-school interest. Since they fit the criteria required, they are awarded $4,500 in subsidized loans for the 3 years that they take to complete their associates. So we're assuming that they take 3 years to complete it across 6 semesters. That comes to a total of $13,500 in loans for their associate's degree through FRCC. After finishing an associate's at FRCC, student 1, I mistyped there, but student 1 has no interest on their loans due to only accepting subsidized loans. Now they only owe $13,500 for the time being. Student 2 chooses to accept all of the loans offered to them. So since they fit the criteria required, they're offered the total amount of loans available to them. They take everything. That means 4,500 in subsidized loans and 6,000 unsubsidized for the 3 years. So we're assuming the same time frame across 6 semesters. That means that they have a total of $31,500 in loans for their associate's degree at Front Range. Reminding you of the 2.75% interest rate. That means that over time, just in the time that they were at school or attending Front Range, they already accrued $810 in interest just for those unsubsidized loans. So now they owe a total before they've even right as they graduate, they owe a total of $32,310. So you see the difference in just those two people already: 13,500 versus 31,000 or 32,000. Same time frame, almost double the total debt. Student number 3, on the other hand, in this imaginary fairy tale world, they didn't accept any loan funding offered to them. They found ways to pay through scholarships, work study, payment plans out of pocket, scrounged up change from the couch, that kind of thing. Since grants and scholarships are free money that you don't need to pay back and work study is earned, their debt load is $0. So same time frame, but no money owed. Loans at CSU or another university. I only say CSU because I went there. So we're saying that these students then chose to, after Front Range, go to another institution. So this student number 1 chooses to go to CSU because it's an awesome school. While they're there, they again only accept the undergraduate subsidized loans for a total maximum of $23,000. Everything else they funded through grants, scholarships, work study, or third-party assistance. They've completed their bachelor's degree and then finished they completed their bachelor's degree at CSU. They have no interest on their loans, so now they only owe $23,000 for the time being. However, after being out of school for longer than 6 months, or in fewer than 6 credits for longer than 6 months, their subsidized loans will start accruing interests. Student number 2, on the other hand, the worst case scenario student, they continue to accept and maximize all of their student loans that were offered to them, and they eventually hit the Federal Department of Education lifetime limit on undergraduate loans for a total maximum of $57,500. Only $23,000 of which is subsidized. So they have the exact same bachelor's degree, but in the time that they've been in school, they already have accrued $1,620 in interest just from those unsubsidized loans. So before they even graduate, they owe $59,120 in combined principal and interest. So they haven't even gone into repayment yet, and they owe almost 60 grand. And then student number 3, the fairy tale student, continues to only utilize grant funding, scholarships, work study, stuff like that. They completed all of it without any loan debt, so they owe $0. Wouldn't that be nice? Not me. So the timeline of loans. So this is kind of where a lot of students, when you're on the front side of education, you're really excited about going to school. You accept your loans and you see, oh, it's only $4,000, or it's only $6,000, or it's only $10,000. It starts to add up over time. And we want you to think about like the lifetime of your loans, in particular, the lifetime of you. Student loans are dischargeable by bankruptcy. They're the only kind of loan that isn't. So they're stuck with you for life until you pay them off. They have a typical repayment period of 10 years. The minimum required payment is $50 per month unless your loans can be deferred based on some personal circumstance or if you're on an income-based repayment plan. So there's 2 exceptions to that, but generally the basic minimum payment is $50 per month. If you're only paying the minimum, you're never really paying towards principal at all. I think I remember looking at the statistics, but if you're paying the $50 minimum, I think only about $1 of it goes to principal. So you're dropping pennies in a bucket. Basically, you're not doing too much to pay off your student loans if you're only paying the minimum. So with those students, we're going to follow them through their lifetime. Once student 1 graduates, they have a total of $23,000 in principal student loan debt. If they have that 2.75 rate applied towards their loans, if they're going to pay off their loans within the normal 10-year period, so just like the normal payment, would be $219.45 per month for 10 years. that's just something to think about when you're accepting those loans is what's my monthly payment going to look like? In the time that it takes for student one to pay off their student loans, average to 10 years, they'll have accrued and paid off about $3,000 in just interest. That comes to a lifetime total of $26,000, just making your normal payments. That's the normal average student. If you only made minimum payments, that interest would go way, way higher, and you're paying a way, way higher lifetime total. So those numbers go up by quite a bit if you're paying less, which seems paradoxical, but that's student loans for you. Student number two, once they graduate, they have $57,500 in principal loan debt. Again, that same 2.75 interest rate, which is really, really low. That's a historic low right now. It might go up depending on how the economy performs. But if they only made their baseline payment, like the normal payment, for a 10-year period, they would have to pay $549.08, which sounds pretty extreme, but especially to people that have graduate degrees, is a number you're jealous of. Anyways, remember while they're in school, their unsubsidized loans accrued $1,620 in interest. In the time that it takes them to pay off in that 10-year period, they have accrued and paid off at approximately $8,300 in just interest, which comes to a lifetime total of $67,453.67. So it's really interesting to see how fast that interest piles up. Over 10 years, you're paying $10,000 in interest towards $50,000-$60,000 worth of loans. So again, just thinking about those loans in long term. So once student three graduates, they have $0 in debt. For perspective, but the money that the student one owes in loan payments per month, so that $218 per month that we were talking about earlier, that's your entire month's utilities for like 1 month out of the year. You could pay for pet food, pet insurance. You could build up an emergency fund using that $219 per month. You could have reasonable payments on a used car. I mean, you could probably pay for the entire lease of a car with that $219 and not really even sweat it. But $219 is a game-changing amount of money that you're paying per month if you're not managing your loans appropriately. The total loan debt, so this one's something that I wanted to kind of draw out and be pretty ridiculous about, but this is to put that total debt in perspective. So if somehow student one had all of their debt in one lump sum, $26,334, you could essentially stay at the Titus Villa in Caesar's Palace for a single night, which that one blew my mind, that it's $25,000 per night. I don't know what room in the world is worth that per night, but apparently that one might be. I don't think so. I'd rather have the money, but I guess it's a really cool room. You could put a reasonable down payment on a house. If you're buying a tiny house, you could probably buy it outright. You could buy a 2020 Kia Sportage out the door. I don't know. I'm not a giant Kia fan. I wouldn't classify myself as a car fan. So I had to Google cars worth $26,000, which turns out is a lot of them. So 2020 Kia Sportage is the one that I went with just because it had a cool photo. I did find property that looked really cool that you could buy here in Colorado for $25,000. 8 acres, which I thought was fantastic. You could also buy 52,668 Jack in the Box 2-for-1 tacos and then have diarrhea for the rest of your life, which I think is really, really short if you ate $52,000, 52,000 tacos. But either way, so going back to that monthly payment, student two owes $549 per month. That's their student loan payment per month. This is what they could do with that per month payment. You could cover all of your monthly bills. So we're talking utilities, health insurance, car insurance, groceries. The average of those comes out to about $550 per month. That's what this student is spending on just student loan payments. That's not including any of this stuff. So your life expenses get really expensive if you're not managing your student loan debt well. You could put most of it into a rent for a bedroom for a house. So I looked in Fort Collins, the average for a single bedroom is about $600. Sometimes it feels a lot higher than that, especially to college students. I don't know what you guys pay. For my worst apartment when I was in college, I paid less than 600, but it was a pretty bad apartment. I also found out that Travis Scott was selling chicken nugget body pillows, and they are disturbingly realistic, but they're $90 a pop. So you can buy 5 of those if you, for some reason, wanted 5 of those per month. I don't know what you would do with that many chicken nugget pillows, but it's something you could do. And then again, going for that big picture kind of look, $67,453. That could get you through up to 2 years worth of graduate school at CSU. If you just had that somehow lump sum. Now we assume that most students didn't save every cent that another student took out in loan debt. But if you just somehow had that, you can imagine how much money how much you could put that money to work. You could go to 2 years of grad school at CSU. You could buy a brand new 2020 Tesla Model 3. Again, I'm not a car guy, but I hear those are pretty neat. I just want a car that drives itself, but whatever. I was convinced by TV I'd have a self-driving car by now. You could, if you were a really responsible human being, put it into a Roth IRA. I looked into those, and then I got really upset that I don't have any money to put into whatever this thing is, because apparently if you had that kind of money, it could be $1 million by the time you're 65, which would be really neat. I'll be lucky if I have $1 when I'm 65. Very irresponsible with money, which is why I'm in financial aid. And then I looked up really expensive watches because I wanted to see what kind of bougie watches existed in the world. A Rolex Datejust 2 Ice Blue Dial Platinum, which is just so many words to say. I could not tell people about my watch because I'd forget all the words. But apparently that thing's worth $64,000, which would mean that I would lose it instantly if I owned it. But yeah, so those are the absurd things that you can get for $67,000 worth of money. So it's just, again, thinking about like these things add up over time. But to give you some perspective on that, if you're paying that $219 monthly payment towards student loans, that's almost $3,000 that's not going towards something else. That's almost 20 hours of work every month that's solely dedicated to just paying your student loans, assuming that you're working at the Colorado minimum wage. If you make more, great, that cuts those number of hours and down, but you still have to think like your working hours to pay towards your student loans. That's money that could be going somewhere else that if you're not wise while you're in school, you're going to be spending a lot of hours thinking about how you could have spent a little bit less in student loans when you're in college. If you have that $549 payment, that's almost $7,000 that's not going towards something else. That's almost 40 hours of work at minimum wage, a whole week's paycheck. That's 1/4 of your month just going towards student loans. And that's for 10 years. 10 years. And that's if you're making the regular payment. If you're not making the regular payment, you're looking at loan debt for a long, long time. So that's why student loans seem so scary, is because a lot of people don't really think about them in the long-term context. So again, this isn't to scare you out of accepting student loans. We just kind of want you to be judicious about it and really be sensible about it. It can save you a lot of work and time and frustration over if you think about it now. Student loans aren't the most exciting thing to think about. Talking to the financial aid department can seem really daunting, but we are genuinely here for you. We don't want to make it scary. That's why we're here, to have fun conversations and make silly jokes while we give presentations about kind of boring topics. But it's, it's not inherently bad to accept student loans. We just want you to be responsible about it and think about it in the best long-term kind of scenarios. So if you want to talk to us, if you have those kind of lingering questions, or if you want to set up financial aid, you can always contact us at finaid@frontrange.edu. Excuse me. finaid@frontrange.edu is generally the fastest way to contact us. That's our email. We respond to those within 24 to 48 hours usually. You can also give us a call. If you want to set up a payment plan, make payments, or ask about amounts due, you can always contact the cashier's office. And then if you want to set up the Colorado Opportunity Fund, which is a $40 per credit hour tuition discount, you can contact the registrar's office. You can also remotely activate that on your eWolf through the cough button, which is super handy. And $40 a credit hour is a lot. So where to find help? You can always find us through email, like I said. We did have limited in-person availability, but COVID is spiking again. So at this current moment, we don't. You can also go to studentaid.gov for more federal student aid information. There's also the payments and financial aid tab on frontrange.edu. There's a whole bunch of information there. And then finally, if you have any information or if you have any questions about scholarships, we do have a whole page on scholarships. And then on that page, there's contact information for our scholarship coordinators as well. So now for the rest of the time, or however long it takes you to ask questions, do you have any questions for me?
No.